So much has gone down this weekend in professional wrestling, controversial as ever, but we're going to uncover it all, and I'm going to give you guys my unbiased opinion as always. We are going to be talking about AEW signing a former WWE superstar. A former WWE superstar decided to walk out on AEW, and on top of that, we're finally getting a big reunion, and it's all coming up right here on the Ango Show. If you guys want more videos like this, don't forget to click that subscribe button and ring that bell. I want to kick things off today with the Lucha Bros. I know everybody wants to see them back together, and it looks like it's happening. And it's happening under the WWE umbrella, but no, it is not happening on Raw or SmackDown or Survivor Series War Games or any of the upcoming WWE PLEs. In fact, it's actually happening in AAA. Now, according to Lucha Blog, who has been infamous for cutting stories, very detailed, in-depth stuff, pretty much with everything happening in Lucha Libre, has come out and revealed that the AAA Guerra de Titanes event on December 20th will be held in Guadalajara, and the promotion is pulling out all the stops to make it a major draw. Keep in mind, we talked about this the other week. WWE is trying to put around 20,000 in the arena, and it turns out that AAA is banking on fans coming all over Mexico to see this event. But the real thing that is the talking point here is that Penta and Phoenix are set to reunite. Now, obviously, there has been a ton of talk about the Lucha Bros returning together, reuniting, and, I'm obviously a very big fan of their work, but right now, I don't want them together on Raw and SmackDown. But it turns out even Penta is teasing this on Instagram stories. He's posting a teaser, and once you decode the teaser, basically it takes you to Guadalajara, which is where the venue is for this event. So basically, yeah, this is a very big deal for WWE. This is a very big deal for AAA. They understand exactly what has to happen here, which is the reunion of the Lucha Bros. And quite frankly, I'm super excited about this. I am genuinely super excited about this. And I'm glad that WWE is taking this event very seriously. Historically speaking, this is a very important event. And obviously with WWE now owning AAA, you really want them to go out there and put their best foot forward. Obviously, they're changing a little bit of things here and there. And the WWE influence has obviously been very good for AAA. But I do want to see the Lucha Bros there. And hopefully it gives us a big glimpse of what is to come in the future when it's inevitable they have to reunite on WWE programming. That brings us to our next topic. Ladies and gentlemen, you may have heard the stories of Miranda and Tegan Nox walking out of AEW. Long story short, there was a couple reports about Nixon Newell, aka Tegan Nox, and Miranda Alizé, who are tag teaming now in AEW. And as of right now, it hasn't been confirmed that they're signed to the company. So that's what obviously makes this incredibly controversial. But there was a report that came out from Fightful that essentially they walked out because they didn't want to lose a match or didn't want to wrestle in a 3-minute match for Collision. This prompted them to leave the arena, and then this prompted AEW to have Hyan and Maya's World compete in the 3-minute match instead. What it actually turns out to be the case now is that multiple reports have come out about them walking out. So what happens is Tegan Nox goes on to Twitch with her tag team partner, and they address the situation right off the rip. And they address the situation. They claim there's no bad blood. They said it wasn't anything to do with them refusing to lose, but essentially what it was that they felt like 3-minute match was not beneficial to anybody involved in the match. So they told their producer, and they basically were told, hey, like, it's okay, like, you guys can go, whatever. Then it turns out that Brian Alvarez and Dave Meltzer are talking about this because Tegan Nox and their side of the story is, hey, there's no bad blood. But now today, the story is that there is actually some bad blood, and that AEW was not really happy about this, and people within AEW view this as a very stupid thing to do. So Alvarez says, let me tell you something. I've heard from a lot of people, what was amazing was that I was hearing from people as the show was going on. People weren't even waiting until the show was over. Maybe Tony had told them no hard feelings. Hard feelings is the wrong word. Bad blood. I don't know how you would term it, but there were many people that were like, hey, what a stupid thing to do. And that's one of the things that Alvarez kept overhearing was this was a very stupid thing to do. Now, this is where things get really interesting because their side of the story is that it was peaceful and it was polite and it's not a big deal. And then other reports come out and saying, hey, that's not necessarily true. And a lot of people are unhappy about this. Now, I, for one, want to make it very clear. And I don't care who this offends because, quite frankly, people have a hard time like disassociating professional wrestling from the real world. But any one of you watching this video, if you have a job and you are contracted for this job, you go and do it. You might not be happy about it. You might not be happy with your role, but you are paid to do a job. That was your agreement. You agreed, hey, I'm going to come in, I'm going to do my job. For some reason in professional wrestling, when people don't like the task that they're given, the easy answer is let's just walk away. And I don't think that's a good thing at all. I think, personally speaking, when you go to work, you do your job, you do what's asked of you. And by the way, I am somebody who has critiqued AEW and how they've presented talent when they initially joined the company. Megan Bain, Sky Blue, these are people that we have seen enter AEW, whether it be AEW Dark. They were essentially given jobber roles. Chris Statlander is somebody who just got rewarded with the World Championship after 5 years. Swerve Strickland was thrown into a tag team with Keith Lee. He was thrown into the bullshit with Parker Boudreaux and that group. And now look at Swerve Strickland. He's a top star. Look at Chris Statlander. Now she's a champion. Sky Blue, heavily featured in the women's tag team division. So to AEW's credit, these women could have came in, done a 3-minute match, but maybe a year from now, they could have been the tag team champions. You go to work, you do your job, and that is basically what is asked of you. It's really not that complicated. In fact, what you could do is do the job that you were assigned and then have the conversation after and say, hey, listen, we really want to do something meaningful that benefits everybody involved. We really don't think this benefited everybody involved. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm trying to tell you guys? At the end of the day, it's a job. You got to do your job. And if you don't like your job, you could quit your job. But then the reality is when you go for another job interview and you say, hey, this is the reason why I didn't last in my other job. Now you're somebody who's hard to work with. I might not want to hire you. To me, I thought this was lousy. I thought this was really crazy. And it's actually embarrassing, to be honest. And for AEW, maybe this was a thing that happened, but maybe for AEW, this was a thing that you can't ignore. Even if Tony Khan says there's no hard feelings, there's no bad blood, there's a certain level of professionalism that should be required to work at AEW, to work at WWE. And for Tony Khan, as a businessman and as a booker, you want to send the right message to your team that, hey, you're going to do what you are paid to do. And if it is true that Tegan Knox and Miranda, if they're not actually signed to the company and they're just enhancement talent, they're just per appearance right now, you may have shot yourself in the foot for a contract. Which, by the way, Tegan Knox has been vocal publicly about a lack of bookings. And I don't foresee WWE bringing her back. So if WWE isn't bringing her back and AEW is not bringing you back, now what? Does TNA want to work with you guys? I'm just saying sometimes it may not be worth it. And that brings us to our final topic. Ladies and gentlemen, there was a couple reports over the weekend that AEW has had expressed interest in Zeta Steel. Fightful first came out and reported. PW Insider followed suit. Multiple reports. Zeta Steel, former WWE ID prospect, former Evolve superstar, very young, incredibly talented female wrestler who, by the way, has a lot of opportunity to shine. Supposedly, AEW is working with her for Ring of Honor. They are looking to bring her in for Ring of Honor. She's been visiting. We don't know if it's 100% confirmed that it's signed, but the belief is that she will be part of AEW Ring of Honor moving forward, which would make sense because it was her decision to not renew with WWE ID. Some people have been critical about this on social media, but Zeta Steel is 21 years old. AEW doesn't really have a great track record of developing talent. They don't have a performance center, you know. We know this. Tony Khan has said it before, like going after more established indie wrestlers. But sometimes you just have to take the opportunity when it's there. And I think people who are critiquing AEW for that should realize this girl is like 21 years old, a lot of potential in the business. You bring her into Ring of Honor, there's less pressure on her to figure things out. You have a wealth of knowledge backstage. Coach her up, train her up. When the opportunities arise for a match on Collision, give it to her. See how she does. Evaluate. And then after that, give it a year or two, and you might be looking at a future women's star in AEW. So I 1,000,000% actually like the idea of this. I 1,000,000,000% like the idea of this. And it just makes a lot of sense. And if you're Zeta Steel, it would make sense leaving WWE Evolve for Ring of Honor. And it would sure as hell make a lot of sense to go to Ring of Honor and do this development and learn a little bit from the people in AEW. And when that opportunity exists, take advantage of it. And maybe, you know, if they tell you there's a 3-minute squash match or something like that, maybe don't walk out on the job. But I think Zeta Steel will be a great pickup for AEW. And truth be told, I think it's the right move. It's a very low risk signing with absolutely a ton of potential. And if the culture in AEW backstage is great and Ring of Honor, there is a wealth of knowledge between the women on this roster. You got Serena Deeb, you got Mercedes Moné. You got plenty of people back there who could say, you know what, let me work with Zeta Steel a little bit. There's a lot of coaches out there in AEW. Jerry Lynn, Big Show, right? Paul White. Like, there's a lot of things you could do. That's my suggestion. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the Ango Show.